guest at every one of these signings, so I might as well just sort of get ahead of the ball and answer these frequently asked questions at a time. So the number one frequently asked question, of course, is, what the hell took me so long? I see many of you are holding a Dance with Dragons. You can feel the size of it, the girth, the weight, the strain on your wrists and lower back. That's really what took me so long. It's monstrously long and monstrously complex. Tolkien once said that the tale grew in the telling, and I think he was explaining why his sequel to The Hobbit was turning out to be much longer than The Hobbit. And that certainly has occurred to me. I began writing a trilogy, and here I am with the fifth book of my trilogy, and two more yet to come. In the particular case of Dance, of course, as most of you know, 5 years ago when Feast came out, I split Feast in two. It had gotten to be 1,500 pages in manuscript long, which is just about as long as any publisher can put between two sets of covers, unless they go to like microprint and provide a magnifying glass with each book. So I split it, and I made the decision to split it by characters and geography. When I did that split, I pulled out about 500 pages, and I was left with a book of about 1,000 manuscript pages, which was Feast for Crows. And I made the calculation, well, I have 500 pages already written. I need to do another 500 pages. That should take me about a year. And I made that infamous statement to that effect in the back of Feast. Actually, of course, Dance with Dragons, in the final form that was published in, is about 1,500 manuscript pages. So I didn't write an additional 500 pages. I wrote an additional 1,000 pages, which obviously takes substantially longer. Not only that, but when I actually got into it, I didn't like some of those 500 pages I pulled from Feast. I thought they needed more work, so I pulled them apart. I had different things happen. I restructured, I rewrote, I moved things around. So that took some time too, and it all combined to being up to now and it coming out when it came out. So I'm sorry it's late. I would have liked to have had it out a few years ago. My publisher would have liked to have it out a few years ago, and of course many of you probably would like to have it out. But I'm glad that it is what it is, because I think the book that you're now holding is a better book than what you would have had if you had it in 2007 or 2008. I could have thrown something out at that time. I certainly had enough in terms of rough page count, but I don't think you would have liked it as well. I certainly would not have liked it as well. And ultimately, you have to please yourself with these things. I have learned a lesson. There's no little statement in the back of the book that says when the next book will be out. If anyone asks me when Winds of Winter will be done, my answer is it will be done when it is done. And I hope I have a number of other things. I have all these tours and promotional things to do, and then I have a number of other projects that I have to wrap up, most of which are also overdue. But I expect to be back to Winds of Winter full time by next year, end of this year, early next year, and we'll see. Hopefully the work on that will go more quickly. Moving on to some other frequently asked questions. So Tyrion is my favorite character, but I love all the characters. You have to love all the characters, the viewpoint characters in particular, because when I write them, I kind of got to put myself inside them, put on their skins as it was. So even the bastards and the ne'er-do-wells and the evil sons of bitches, I sort of have to identify with. They all have a little piece of me in me. So it's hard to not feel affection for all of them. But Tyrion is the most fun to write and has been all along. The hardest one to write is Bran, and that's because he's the youngest. It's hard to write from the point of view of a young child. You have to constantly examine everything you're doing and say, would a child use that word? Would a child see it that way? Would a child fully understand the situation that he's witnessing, and that's a process that slows you down a little bit. Um, the TV show I'm frequently asked about. I love the TV show. I think they're doing a great job. My involvement on the TV show, I am a co-executive producer, but in effect, mostly I'm a consultant. I have great communications with David Benioff and Dan Weiss, who run the show. They touch base with me from time to time. I can get them by email or phone anytime I want. We talk about issues that are coming up. Of course, I've had a role in all of the casting. I view all of the auditions and weigh in with my 2 cents on it. Sometimes they listen to me, sometimes they make another choice, but I always feel that I'm part of the process. And I write one script per season. For the first season, I did episode 8, The Pointy End. For the second season, I've completed recently the first draft of Blackwater, episode 9, which is going to be a mother. I don't know how in the world they're possibly going to do what I wrote, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll be able to do enough so that the Battle of Blackwater is not 2 guys in rowboats looking at each other with their oars. But, it's expensive to do this stuff. But it's been great fun working on the show. I visited the set a few times, and I hope to visit the set again. And by and large, I think they're doing an incredible job. And of course, I'm delighted by the fact that the show has gotten me so many new readers. I'm sure that there are many of you here in this crowd who are new to the series because you discovered the HBO series, and that's great. I love my old readers, but it's great to be found by new folks as well, and who are enjoying it. And as much as I love the show, I'll always be a novel guy, a prose guy. I love the books even more. And writing them and hopefully for you guys reading them is a great adventure. Let me see, what other frequently asked questions am I asked all the time? Is there any time? What other frequently asked questions do I need to cover? He doesn't know. He's okay, let me take some questions from you guys. Yes?
Is there going to be a Duncan Egg collection coming out?
Is there going to be a Duncan Egg collection coming out? Yes, there is. I've signed a deal with Random House. There will actually be a number of Duncan Egg collections, but the first one, the one I have under deal, will contain the first 4 novellas. That will be The Hedge Knight, The Sworn Sword, The Mystery Knight, and the 4th novella, yet to be written, which is one of the things I have to do when I end. But that one will be in an initially published in an anthology called Dangerous Women, which is edited by myself and Gardner Dessois, which we're putting together. So it will appear in Dangerous Women, and then the 4 novellas will be published in a collection by Random House Bantam. That will not be, I want to do more with Duncan Egg. I want to take them through the whole career, so they'll ultimately be, 8, 12, 17 novellas, however many it takes to tell the story of their lives, and I'm writing them sort of in between each of the books. So it's going to take me a few years or decades to get it all done, but meanwhile, these collections coming out. We also have the 3rd Duncan Egg novella, The Mystery Knight, where we're going to be doing a comic book series graphic novel on that one, just as we did on the first 2, with the same creative team of Ben Avery on adaptation and Mike S. Miller on the artwork. So yes, there.
Oh, when looking back at the whole story, starting with Game of Thrones, are there any characters who have been killed off that you wish at this point you hadn't killed them?
No, not really. Are there any characters, the question was, are there any characters who have been killed off that I wish I hadn't killed off? The major deaths in this have been planned, for some time, but at least going back to midway through the first book when things were really falling into shape for me and I could see where I was going. And it is hard for me to kill these characters. I have considerable time and emotion invested in them. some of the minor characters, their deaths may be a spur of the moment thing. You know, I'm writing a battle and I need 7 people to die. All right, who should die here? You know? I look at my list of Night's Watch brothers and I say, okay, it should be Harry the Pimple and yeah, this guy and that guy. Okay, they're dead. But you know, no, the major deaths are part and parcel of the design of the whole thing. So I know the upcoming deaths too. There will be some you'll be surprised to hear. There are even some in this new book, which, by the way, no spoilers in the questions, please, because there are people who have not read Dance with Dragons yet, and there are probably even people who are just reading the series for the first time and don't even know what's coming in like Clash of Kings and Star Wars Swords and so forth. So, question, other question. Yes, back there.
What was your inspiration for starting the series, and has that changed over the series development?
My inspiration for starting the series, you know, it just sort of came out of nowhere. I was actually working on another novel, a science fiction novel that I planned for some time and had a decade's worth of notes and ideas on, and suddenly I had this vision of the scene where these direwolf pups were found in the summer snow, and I sat down and wrote it. It was there so vividly, and I didn't know what it was a part of. It certainly didn't fit the science fiction novel I was writing. So, but I wound up putting that novel aside and writing this novel and writing a second chapter and a third chapter and sort of getting to meet the characters. And you know, at some point I drew a map that was sort of, you know you're lost when you draw the map. And here we are today. You know, I never know where this inspiration comes from. I'm not a believer in supernatural forces. I may make jokes about muses and so forth, but I don't really believe in them as the ancient Greeks did. I think it's all coming from me, from my subconscious brain, or my, I don't know, the right brain, the left brain, the id, the superego, the, you know, Shuggoth's a whispering in my ear. But it's certainly not the rational part of my brain, you know. It's never a case where I sit down and say, now I am going to think of an idea. It's just, that would be cool. Wait a minute, yeah. Or I start to see a character or a scene, sometimes a setting. Often it begins with a character or a scene, a moment, and then it grows from there. I've often said that writers, there are 2 kinds of writers. There are the architects and the gardeners. And the architects like plan everything, they blueprint everything, they design everything ahead of time before they write the first word or the first sentence. And the gardeners just sort of plant the seed and see what comes up. And I'm no writer is purely one or the other. I think to be a writer you have to have elements of both, but I'm much more a gardener than I am an architect, and always have been. And that's maybe partly why I'm so slow, because I think one of the effects of being a gardener rather than an architect is you find yourself sometimes wandering off along dead ends or writing things that don't need what they are, and then you have to go back and cut it. But it's worked for me for the last 40 years of my career, so I'm not going to change at this point. So we'll just all have to be patient. Yes?
What do you think about being called America's Tolkien?
I like being called America's Tolkien. It's pretty cool. I love Tolkien. He was